Crash Course on Chinese Communist Party, CCP, Interferences on Canadian Democratic Systems by ChatGPT, Bing. There have been concerns about Chinese Communist Party, CCP, interference in Canadian democratic systems, particularly in the lead-up to federal elections. The CCP's influence on Canadian politics and the impact it may have on Canadian democracy has been a growing concern among politicians, academics, and the general public. One of the most significant ways that the CCP has been accused of interfering in Canadian democracy is through the use of social media and other digital platforms. The CCP has been known to use social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook to spread disinformation and propaganda, often using fake accounts or bots to amplify their messages. This has led to concerns about the influence of foreign powers on Canadian politics, particularly in the lead-up to elections. There have also been concerns about the CCP's influence on Chinese Canadian communities in Canada. The CCP has been known to use tactics like intimidation and harassment to control members of the Chinese diaspora, including students and community leaders. This has led to concerns about the potential for the CCP to use these tactics to influence the outcome of Canadian elections, particularly in ridings with large Chinese Canadian populations. In addition to these concerns, there have been reports of the CCP attempting to infiltrate Canadian political parties and influence their policies. There have been allegations that the CCP has attempted to recruit politicians and candidates sympathetic to their interests, and that they have used their financial resources to influence Canadian politics. This has raised concerns about the influence of foreign powers on Canadian democracy and the potential for Canadian politicians to be compromised by foreign interests. One of the most high-profile examples of CCP interference in Canadian politics came to light in 2019, when it was revealed that a former Conservative Party candidate had been approached by a Chinese businessman with links to the CCP. The businessman had allegedly offered to fund the candidate's campaign in exchange for promoting Chinese interests in Canada. The candidate reported the incident to the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, which launched an investigation. Another example of CCP interference in Canadian democracy came in 2020, when the Chinese government warned Canada not to grant asylum to Hong Kong pro-democracy activists. This warning was seen as an attempt to influence Canadian immigration policy and discourage Canada from granting asylum to those who were critical of the CCP. More specifically, there have been several examples of Chinese Communist Party, CCP, interference in Canadian democratic systems. Here are some of the most significant. 1. Social media interference. In 2018, a report by the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, CSIS, warned that foreign powers, including the CCP, were using social media to interfere in Canadian politics. The report stated that foreign actors were using social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook to spread disinformation and propaganda, often using fake accounts or bots to amplify their messages. 2. Intimidation of Chinese Canadian communities. In 2017, a report by the Canadian Parliament's Special Committee on Canada-China Relations found that the CCP was using intimidation tactics to control members of the Chinese diaspora, including students and community leaders. The report stated that the CCP was using these tactics to suppress dissent and maintain control over Chinese Canadians. 3. Infiltration of political parties. In 2019, a former Conservative Party candidate in the federal election reported to the Canadian Security Intelligence Service that he had been approached by a Chinese businessman with links to the CCP. The businessman had allegedly offered to fund the candidate's campaign in exchange for promoting Chinese interests in Canada. 4. Interference in Hong Kong protests. In 2020, the Chinese government warned Canada not to grant asylum to Hong Kong pro-democracy activists. This warning was seen as an attempt to influence Canadian immigration policy and discourage Canada from granting asylum to those who were critical of the CCP. 5. Disinformation campaigns. In 2021, it was reported that a Chinese diplomat in Canada had circulated a video that claimed that Uyghur Muslims in China were not being mistreated. The video was seen as part of a larger disinformation campaign by the CCP to undermine international criticism of its treatment of the Uyghur minority. Some possible consequences or impacts of Chinese interference on Canadian democracy are: A. Undermining public trust and confidence in the electoral system and the government. B. Creating division and polarization among Canadians over China-related issues. C. Influencing Canada's foreign policy and national security decisions. D. Eroding Canada's sovereignty and independence. E. Violating Canadians' rights and freedoms. According to a recent poll, a majority of Canadians believe that China likely or definitely interfered in the last 2 federal elections, and that this represents a serious threat to democracy. However, some experts have cautioned against jumping to conclusions or spreading misinformation without solid evidence. Therefore, it is important to be vigilant and informed about these issues, and to support measures that can protect Canada's democratic process from foreign interference. 3. Overall, the CCP's interference in Canadian democracy is a growing concern among politicians, academics, and the general public. The use of social media and other digital platforms, as well as the potential for the CCP to influence Chinese Canadian communities and infiltrate Canadian political parties, have raised concerns about the integrity of Canadian elections and the potential for foreign powers to undermine Canadian democracy. As Canada continues to grapple with these issues, it will be important for politicians and policymakers to remain vigilant and take steps to protect Canadian democracy from foreign interference. We hope this video has given you a taste of all the incredible experiences Canada has to offer. If you're ready to start planning your own adventure to Canada, please ensure to use our Booking.com referral link: https://www.booking.com/index.html?aid equals 7989335 to book your flights, hotels, car rentals, local attractions, and more. It's an easy and kind way to support this channel and make sure you get the best possible deals on your trip. Thank you. Anhub Metaverse team at Vancouver, Canada, CA.